And look, we got a comment already. Morning.
Oh, 88
morning.
Slick.
Good morning.
881
That's
Slick.
Gary Wilkins, right? Good morning, Gary. Good morning, everybody. So welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. Yeah, you see, Gary was in there quick and early and got the first comment in there before the show even started. How about that?
Well, Gary and Mike sent us an update last week on what was happening in the Welland River.
Yeah, he did.
And
He
it
basically
says
was saying that he expected it to be a Friday mess.
Yeah, it says the one I got from, I think it says went to the Welland River this Sunday, Tuesday, yesterday. That was last week. Yesterday was the cleanest I've seen it, the stream, since spring. Alas, today is Friday, which seems to be dumping day for the industrial section of Niagara Falls. We will monitor this a few times today, and as it seems Friday is dumping day, the end of the week.
Yeah, I'd like to get an update from Mike about that. Didn't see anything from him this weekend, which surprised me because I thought that would have been a self-updating story. But still,
anyway, we have some very, very interesting things. Well, I mean, alarming things happening this weekend, and of course, the number one story is Trump's assassination attempt again. This was close. We think of it because, and apparently the gunman, and I'm assuming that everyone's heard about this, but apparently the gunman was set up.
No, I didn't.
You didn't know that there was an assassination Trump against Trump?
Maybe I probably just ignored it because, hey, you think to yourself, well, that's just talking about before.
Well, the more Democrat leading news outlets really minimized it, from what I can see, and I'll have to get into that a little bit later. But I think in MSNBC, I think that was the term, they led like something like there was an assassination attempt against Trump amid his accusations that Springfield, Ohio, were eating cats and dogs or something like that. I mean, it was completely off base. Completely, they should what did that have to do with anything? And they put that in there, and they also, it was terrible. I mean, the man's life was in danger here. I mean, seriously, the guy was the police said he was 300 to 500 meters away with an AK-47 style gun. Didn't say it was an AK-47, said it was an AK style rifle with a scope on it, and filming equipment to film the whole thing. At first they don't know his motivations, but apparently he's a strong proponent of Ukraine, and has in past tried to get be a recruiter for Ukraine, trying to get Americans to recruit to go over there and fight in the Ukraine. And of course, Trump has said that he'd stop that war, and perhaps in this guy's twisted mind, he thinks that if he killed Trump, that wouldn't happen. I don't know. I don't think they're protecting this guy well enough, if you ask me. There's been a very close attempt on his life that should never have happened, and this one is even more egregious because the guy was laying in wait. If it hadn't been for a Secret Service agent seeing the barrel of a gun sticking out of a fence, or it could have been a disaster if the guy had stayed back in the woods a little bit in the bushes and then waited until he saw Trump and then pull out his gun. He would have probably been able to get away with it.
Yeah,
I have ever since Trump got into politics back in 2016, I think it was, I was very surprised that nobody had taken a shot at him. Well, now someone did. Narrowly, they clipped his ear, which is like inches away from killing the man. And he did kill, in that particular shooter, did kill people behind him, one or two, I think. But I don't know what is it with the United States right now? I mean, this is the leading candidate for Republicans, and they're not protecting him. What's going on? And the only explanation they had was, well, because he's not a sitting president, he doesn't get all the protections that a sitting president does.
Absolute bunk. That's absolute rubbish, because there's been, former presidents who've served their 2 terms get a full detail for the rest of their life.
Yeah, but not the same kind that a sitting president gets. Now, Trump was golfing, right? And what happens is the Secret Service agents stay a couple of steps ahead of him, go to the next hole that he was about to go to, and check that out and that. But if he was a sitting president, the whole golf course would have been surrounded. Well, don't you think they should have done that already? Because they've already been an attempt on his life.
Yeah, 100% that should be the case. Yeah.
Especially after there's already been an attempt on his life.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Okay.
I mean, I think this whole thing is very, very unsure. I just don't like this at all. I've always felt that Trump was a mark for assassin's bullet, right, since the very beginning.
Yeah.
Particularly his powerful demagogic type of powers. People are afraid of him, and in any case, I just I think this is appalling that his protection is so bad. I mean, hats off to the Secret Service, the agents that did keep an eye peeled and did spot this. But like I said, like if he was half his worth of salt as an assassin, and I don't mean to compliment anyone that is an assassin, would have stayed low until the president appeared. This guy had his gun ready out in view, which meant that he was kind of dumb. But the fact of the matter is, he was there, and if it hadn't been for his mistake, the president could have been killed. The ex-president could have been killed, and that would have might have caused a civil war in the United States, for crying out loud.
Actually, just as a point of convention, former presidents are still entitled to use the term title president. Not former president, right?
But in this particular case, because he was the ex-president, basically, he didn't get as much, and you can understand that until the first attempt. Yeah, you can understand that up until the first attempt. After that, he should have had a full complement of agents protecting him. He is a potential president, whether you like him or not.
Yeah,
he is
exactly. Whether you like him or not, he's a potential president. He's potentially the next president. Right.
He has been elected. He has been elected that by his party.
Yeah.
So you have to respect it, whether or not you respect his ideas or not.
The nation,
the American people have put him there.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, both him and Camilla deserve equal protection.
I don't know. Right now, I don't know. I don't know, but
I'm not saying that. Yeah. Okay. So then the other question is, okay. So while you're talking presidential stuff, Pope Francis criticizes Trump and Harris, saying that the voters must choose between the lesser of 2 evils. because he's.
Well, I like just wait before we get on to that. I would just like to talk about the other very, very important and very dangerous acceleration in the Middle East. The Houthis launched a hypersonic rocket missile that hit Israel, got past their Iron Dome system, and exploded inside of Israel, pretty close to the airport.
Yeah, but we'll come to that. That's one of the news articles on today. Yeah.
Well, that happened on the weekend, and I wanted to point the most dangerous developments. I mean, the Trump thing was one, and the other most dangerous one is this Houthi attack, which implies that Iran has a lot of those same type of hypersonic missiles that can get past Israel's defenses. So this accelerates the problems that are happening in the Middle East at that time. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. All right. So as I was saying, Pope Francis is basically saying Donald Trump's anti-migrant policies and Harris's support for abortion rights are both against both anti-life policies and being more vocal than his predecessors. He's basically saying you got a choice between the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, he's pretty well put himself into that same, like the way he put it, you have to choose between the lesser of two evils. In fact, in other words, you're going to have to hold your nose and pick one or the other, depending on who you think is the worst. And I believe that a lot of the undecided voters, so-called double haters, there's a group of, that are coined double haters because they don't like either one of Trump or Harris. I don't blame them. I don't like either one either. So they're going to have to decide which is the worst possible of two bad choices.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much what the Pope has said. But he's decided his along moral grounds. He is, of course, being the Roman Catholic Pope, completely against abortion, believing that life begins immediately upon conception, and he's against Trump because Trump's actions towards the migrants and how he views it to be cruel and against humanity as well. And there's probably a host of other things he could bring up, but he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and says, I can't tell you how to vote on this one. You're going to have to look into your own heart and decide which of the two evils is the least of two evils.
Well, and going on the past history, Catholic voters were split in 2020 with 50% Biden, 49% Trump. Right, according to PW research, and it says 52% of Catholic registered voters describe themselves as leaning Republican today.
Yes, and go ahead.
Well, that's just saying that was today. You know, that's the current view. It was back in 2020. It was 50% voted Biden.
It also says there that 61%, I think, or at least 60% of Catholics feel that abortion is okay.
Yeah,
and I don't know what kind of month they think it is, or like I'm not so sure. Like down in the Bible Belt, they're giving it 6 weeks before an abortion can happen in some states, whatever it is, which is pretty. I don't know. It'd have to tackle to a woman on this one, but apparently some women don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. I know a woman that didn't know she was pregnant for quite a while because she had a lot of spotting, which she thought it was her period.
Yeah,
and it took her a while.
I knew a woman one time who I'd known her for a couple of months, and she said, I'm off next week for maternity leave. And maternity leave? You're not pregnant, are you? And she's like, yeah, I'm 8.5 months pregnant. And you couldn't tell she was thin as a rake, you know?
Oh,
even at 8.5 months pregnant.
Well, there's no questioning it on my ex for our 3 children. She looked like a beach ball.
No, I get it. There's differences in every woman is different, right? But yeah, it's interesting that, as you say, a changing demographic, 61% of Catholics believing that abortion should be legal in most cases.
Yeah. So, but basically, it is a shadow of what's happening in the United States right now among, as I said earlier, among undecided voters, because they are, most of them, or a lot of them anyway, I don't know sure quite, but among the independents anyway, they are what is called the double haters. That's what somebody has coined them, and I think that's a good name for them. If I was in the United States right now, I'd be a double hater, and I wouldn't know who to vote for, basically, if I was in the States right now.
Yeah.
Who's going to be worse? Whether it's
Yep.
going to be the forever wars that Harris brings, or the chaos that Trump will bring. And his Trump, I don't think, believes in democracy one second. At least the other party pretends to. And so, what is it going to be? The lesser of two evils. So, in the United States, I don't know how motivated a lot of people are going to go to the polls. We found that was a big motivation back in 2020 when people got frightened of Trump and came out in droves and voted against him.
Yeah.
And yet he got the most votes of a sitting president in history, far more than Obama did, but Biden edged him out. And it's and the orthodoxy here, or the theory, of course, is that not so many people wanted Biden, but they well, of course, half the people wanted Biden and half wanted Trump, but there was enough people that were afraid of Trump that they actually came out to vote.
And the issue was that whilst the percentage of the vote went up and the actual real numbers went up and the percentage of the vote went up for the first time in like 30 years, something like, and with a growing US population, so the numbers, there's been such a decline in the polling that in fact actually the number of people who came out to vote was the issue, wasn't it? Right? Because nobody could predict how many people were coming out.
No, and the polls have been very wrong. In 2016 and 2020, Trump got a lot more votes than the polls predicted. And even in the 2020 election, where he lost by a whisker, he won by a whisker in 2016, and he lost by a whisker in 2020. The on the Republican side were terrible. They were not accurate at all, and which means you cannot actually take much out of the polls right now. If you were to have these exact same polls back in 2016 as they were, you would have predicted, you would have taken them at face value and said Harris is leading slightly. But you can't do that here, because the polls seem never to be too accurate. They failed twice, in 2016 and 2020. And I don't know if they've cleaned up their act yet or not.
The other thing about this, of course, the poll impact, while you're talking about polls, is typically, and this has only really ever happened in the US, typically in the US, when there's been assassination attempts, it has ended up in a poll spike for the person who's had an attempt. Like popularity in the polls for Reagan when after his shooting, he went up in the polls by about 5 to 8%.
Right? Yes,
but on the first shooting for Trump, there was no change. He flatlined.
And maybe the fear of some sympathy vote for him can explain the conflating of his assassination attempt with what happened in Springfield and the Haitians eating cats and dogs. I didn't really get that. I saw that in a blurb where I'm pretty sure it was the MSNBC guy says, well, there was another attempt on Trump's life amid his and J.D. Vance's accusations that Haitians are eating dogs and cats in Springfield. How the hell did you put them together?
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah, exactly. That's like, obviously whoever's the editor there are fearful that Trump may get some sympathy from or get a boost in the polls if they reported it accurately or as they should. But to conflate it with what went on in Springfield, it's just, it's appalling.
Yeah. And where that Springfield where that accusation about Springfield came from, I don't know.
No, yeah. Well, Trump really shot himself in the foot, and so did Vance, because they didn't bother check. They didn't do any checking.
Oh, yeah.
They thought, oh, this is a good story. This will get something. Well, immediately everybody checks. They asked the governor. They asked the mayor. They asked the other people in town. And one lady came up and said one, and there was only one really a report, and it was a lady who misunderstood what her neighbor had said about her cat, and because the cat got lost, but then came back, or something like that. Anyway, so they and of course, it's one of these stories that explodes, like Chinese eating cats, cooking up cats in cats and rats in the Chinese food restaurant.
Yeah, and they're utterly ridiculous assertions. Usually, and realistically, should be dismissed as being, racist prattle half the time, right?
Yeah, but for a news agency to conflate the attempted murder of a person, doesn't even matter if it's Trump, but particularly aimed at Trump, an attempted murder of a presidential candidate, the second one, and they're trying to throw in the Springfield thing. What is wrong with them? What's wrong with them? It had nothing to do with it. It has nothing at all to do with it.
Nothing to do with it.
It actually makes them look like fools, and it actually absolutely makes it undeniable that they're picking someone for the race. They're trying to pick a winner by influencing it.
Peter Biker basically says deluded cowards who think that they can pin all their grievances onto one person, in this case the former president, are in for a rude awakening. Yeah, I think so. Right? No side will escape the hellscape we voted for,
Yeah, and also don't forget also that we haven't had an attempt on the Democrat side yet, but I believe that may be coming because somebody in their twisted mind, well, they're trying to shoot our guy, so we're going to try to shoot their guy or girl, in this particular case, gal. Yeah. And so that, I don't know, in those big conventions and things like that, somebody could sneak something in. And remember, in the 2016 election, they had open carry at one of Trump's rallies in, I think it was Pennsylvania. He said it was okay to bring in open carry. So a bunch of guys brought in guns. And Trump says, I'd rather you didn't, but you can if you want. So a whole bunch of guys came in with guns. If that ever happened again, you're not going to find that again. He's not going to say that you can have open carry at any rally anymore.
No.
That's definite.
I wouldn't think so. And it doesn't matter which side of the coin you're on. I don't think anybody's going to be open carry.
I think too. Also, it's the gun culture in the United States. I mean, Reagan was shot at. There's been attempts on people's lives. Now Trump's twice. I don't want to spin this away from what happened. I'm just saying that, it seems to me that there's guns everywhere. Anybody can get one with a scope. This particular one had a scope on it, which would mean that he was only 300, could have been as close as 300 yards away. So if the guy could have brought Trump into focus with a scope, he would have killed him. But anyway, back to the Pope. He's I think I know what he feels. You have to vote for the lesser of two evils. Nobody's too impressed with the candidates in the U.S. election these days, and all I can hope for is that somehow, somewhere along the line, this division, this vast division between the left and the right, or the conservatives and the liberals, whatever you like, is getting deeper and deeper and deeper. The Congress is getting less and less in touch with the average person. They have like clueless what's going on. When they had Bibi Netanyahu come to the Congress, so many of the congressmen did not attend that they had to fill in the seats with staff workers. So that sort of they even disguised the fact that there was an objection to his presence in the Congress by filling up the seats and making it look like everybody showed up, filled it up with staff workers. Seriously?
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot of deceit out there, deception, not always out and out lies, but deceptions. And I hope that after this election, I hope things can get back to normal somehow.
No,
I'm really worried about the divide in the United States right now.
That's a hope. That's a hope that I seriously doubt will happen. Right, back to normal. What is normal?
Well, they're going to have to start cooling their jets. I mean, this extreme division, it's almost religious. My religion is better than yours. My religion is Democrat, so I'm a superior, more moral person, and I'm Republican. My religion is Republicanism, and I'm a superior, more moral person than you. It is like it's turning into cult divisions almost between the two, and instead of being politics.
But again, that's becoming the case here more increasingly, as Peter Biker says. Increasingly tribal and vicious as well. We are.
Yes, and I was going to point that out, and I don't think we're as bad though. I don't think we're as bad at all.
Granted.
We don't. Our sort of right wing or conservative leader has been successfully character assassinations of Trudeau and Singh, which I don't like very much at all. But I see how effective it is. If that ever grows, you're going to have that constantly. So this idea, like. Poilievre is very apt at being able to bring a lot of pressure to bear on the personality of Trudeau, and now he's turned his attempt on Jagmeet Singh, which seems to have worked because Jagmeet Singh pulled out of the confidence and supply, aka commitment that he had with the Liberals. However, I don't know. That's just the state of politics these days, and I would really like to get it back to politics instead of personalities, basically. And I think Poilievre will overplay his hand if he keeps doing that.
All right, so let's move on to more Canadian stuff. The Air Canada pilot strike has been averted.
Well, not in time. Lots of people had to cancel their flights. I know a person that was going to go to Vegas, but had to cancel because of unsureness about the strike.
Well, I heard on the radio this morning if you've cancelled or rejigged your flight, you can are likely to be able to rejig it back, but no guarantees.
But this doesn't make up for a lot of the the hotels and attractions that other people have bought ahead of time,
Yeah,
as modern travelers do, they couldn't get full refunds on a lot of their hotels or other things that they had booked.
Well, many hotels nowadays carry a thing that says there's no cancel. You know, you can't cancel. So if you cancel, tough luck, you don't get your money back.
Yes, and even if they do, they don't get the full return.
Yeah.
So and plus people have planned ahead of time to go on trips and had to avert them, cancel them because there was a level of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Whether or not Canadian, like Air
That
delayed,
always
Air Canada,
exists.
aka Air delayed.
That always exists anyway with flights, because I think a lot of people are uncertain about flights, but it particularly persists when you've got this situation whereby nobody's really sure that whether the strike's going ahead or not, and we all hope and pray that it's been averted, but the people who are on the front line, who are in this case the passengers, are more likely to delay than anything else, aren't they, or cancel?
Yes, and I don't know. I saw this in Portugal when there was a lot of people trying to get out of Europe after the Olympics, and there was some instability in the and there's just too many tourists trying to get out of the time when I had booked my flight 3 weeks earlier, I think, and I was lucky I did, because when I went to fly out of Portugal, there was a bunch of people trying to get on that flight, looking for cancellations or looking for standby seats. And as a matter of fact, it was so. And I've done a fair amount of flying, so there's all these people at the counter as we're waiting to in the boarding lounge there, and all these people get in a big long line. And I thought, holy smokes, what am I missing? So I got in the line because I thought they were pre-boarding or something like that, because there was such a line. I've never seen that before ahead of a flight, except when you're boarding or something. So I got in line and I got up to the counter. I says, she says, yes, what can I do for you? So it's all these other people in line. So I thought I had to get in line too. And she looked at my stuff and says, oh no, you're okay. Your seat's secured. All these other people looking for a way out of the country. they're not looking at trying to get on this flight. That many? Yeah.
Right. So they're basically saying that the flights will be back to normal.
Yes, but it hasn't. I really wish they would have taken care of this earlier, because it ruined a lot of people's plans.
Exactly. This is actually what has bothered me with a lot of these federal things. We get to a situation whereby the workers are basically threatening strike after 1, 2, 3, 4 or more years of non-negotiation, of contracts.
Yeah, unfortunately, they in order to get their demands met, or trying to get some sort of parity with U.S. pilots and all the others, they keep saying they want it. We should be negotiating. They're put off, and then finally, okay, we're going to strike. Oh, we'll talk to you now. And in the meantime, it's ruined some people's plans and embittered them. And let's put it this way too: if they go on strike, they're going to lose a lot of business. Not just during the strike, but thereafter, because people won't get on that plane, won't use Air Canada again.
Of course.
I know that I tried to avoid Air Canada back in the 80s. As I said before, we had a nickname for it. It was called Air Delayed, because no matter what Air Canada flight you were going to get on, it's going to be delayed.
I thought that
mine was delayed coming out of Portugal too. How about that? 3 hours, right?
Yeah, I thought that was the name of British Airways, or was that Air Lost Luggage?
Air Lost Luggage could have been that. It also back in that And I looked up, actually, when the flight was delayed, I looked up on the internet, and it found out that Air Canada is one of the most delayed airlines in the airline industry. More delays happen in Air Canada than most other airlines.
But I've not flown more than a dozen times on Air Canada, and I've never been late.
Yeah, and most of the time it's okay. Yeah. I think that the best flights I ever had in recent history, I got an Air France, and I couldn't believe the treatment I got on it. And of course, Cathay Pacific, I was on that, and I said, "Oh boy, I'm going to live on this plane." It was so good, You think like most of the time when I'm in an airplane, and of course, the last time I'm coming back, right, I get an aisle seat because so I can stretch a bit or at least move. Good thing I did. The guy beside me was close to 400 pounds. Like, holy crap, man. And he was traveling with two small females, family members, I guess. And I'm thinking, why didn't you put one of them beside me? But the guy was trying very hard. He's trying very hard not to spill over his seat, but he can't. Now I'm no stick person myself. I'm not exactly the most svelte guy around, and then, so I'm pretty big, and he's like, huge.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Anyway,
I'm surprised they put you on both. I'm surprised they put you both on the same side of the airplane. After all, that could have put it out of kink a little bit.
They put us right in the middle, and we were in the middle seats.
Anyway, yeah. All right, so it's by-election day today for this Montreal riding, Montreal, LaSalle, Emond, Verdun, and for the one in British Columbia as well.
I thought it was Manitoba.
Is it Manitoba? You might be right. I thought it was BC for some reason. Okay, I'm probably misremembering.
Well, the seat, the big one, of course, is Verdun.
Yeah.
Even if the Liberals do win it again and their numbers are way down, it's going to be a disaster. But if they lose it, I don't see how Trudeau is going to be able to pretend that he can lead the party to victory. Trudeau has doubled down, and he says, "I'm not going anywhere." So he brought in Mark Carney to sort of come up with newer and better plans for the economy. It's a little bit too little, too late kind of thing to come up with a magic solution. And this also doesn't make Chrystia Freeland look any good because she's the finance minister. She says, "Oh, me and Mark are friends," but Mark is there to tell everyone at the Liberal retreat back in the weekend that Chrystia Freeland's budget's no good. He didn't like it when it first came out, and he was vocal about that, and he still doesn't like it, and he's telling the Liberals that their whole plan was wrong. Their plan included a huge influx of people into the nation, and that works for a time to help the economy because there's more people paying taxes. But there is a point where that then tips back when, as we said last week, when the pie isn't getting any better, but all hands going into the pie are more and more.
But this one doesn't help any of the serious candidates, the fact that there's 91 candidates on the ballot.
Which ballot is that?
This Montreal ballot.
Oh, lots of those are protest ones, just like the one in
I know.
Yeah.
It was just the same as it was on the on Toronto St. Paul, when there was 125, I think. And half of those ones didn't even get a vote.
Well, in the Montreal one, there's a curious thing there. The NDP are the number one challenge to the Liberals in that riding. However, the Conservatives might win it because the Liberals and the NDP may split the votes between the two, and whatever if the Conservatives can make enough be the third party, and get more than the other two. So though the Liberals and the NDP may split, and that would make a roadway for the Conservatives to win there, which would be a super disaster for Trudeau and his Liberals.
Yeah, but again, actually, then there's. I was reading this that okay, so the candidate NDP is Councillor Craig Suave or is the NDP leader visited several times to support his candidate, City Councillor Craig Suave. Okay, so Craig Suave is the NDP candidate, but the Bloc Québécois candidate is Louis Philippe Suave. Same surname.
Well, yeah, well, it's like Jones and Jones or Smith and Smith, I guess.
Yeah,
but that could be a bit of a problem too.
Well, especially when you're going and you're voting, which Suave was it? Is it I'm voting for?
Well, anyway, we find that we're going to find that the Bloc, I don't think, has much hope in this particular one, but they may be a spoiler too, depending on how many votes they get. If the Liberals lose this one, I'll be interested to see how the Liberal press spins it. Oh, they could have said the vote split or this or that. It's really not an indication of how badly the Liberals.
I guess we'll see in the morning, right? For both of these, both of these overnight. The overnight press will get them. Tonight, tomorrow morning, we can probably be talking about exactly the same subject tomorrow.
It'll be the lead topic, the lead headline on Talking Niagara tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I got some comments here. It only gives advantage to the leaders in this system to separate ourselves from ideological factions. What a shame on the moderate. Okay, so also then Parliament returns today in Ottawa as non-confidence vote on the way, potentially. And good morning to Randy West. Yep, you found us, Randy. Okay, so, and of course, Peter is welcoming Randy. Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. And I'm glad to see Randy because he was a long-term follower on Facebook. I'm still testing every few days to see whether I can get back on Facebook. And I've created a new Talking Niagara page on Facebook. But it'll be a few weeks at least, possibly 6 months before we actually get that up and running.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Because of new restrictions on Facebook.
New restrictions. New censorship. They're censoring Talking Niagara.
Anyway.
I'm going to tell Elon Musk about this.
Yeah, I would. Go tell him. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah. Okay.
Well, me and Elon, we got this potential friendship. I'm sure he's a celebrity industrialist, and he owns X, and I'm a Qantas TV bingo caller. So I mean, we're both celebrities, like.
Yeah, and I'm a minor celebrity here in Niagara Falls because of Talking Niagara. And hey, I used to be a chief information officer, so that puts me even closer to Elon Musk.
Yeah, he's a rising nutcase too. That's the problem with geniuses. Their eccentricities come out of them. Well, anyway, what else we got there?
Okay. Okay, so we were talking. Okay, so strong autumn real estate market is forecast for Niagara, which is considered right now as the jewel in southern Ontario, the jewel market in southern Ontario for real estate.
Yeah, I think the sort of the GTA people are still moving here, still trying to find a way in here.
Yeah.
And they come down here and they see, oh, well, it's close enough to Toronto. You can get a nice house. There's a family here. I don't know where they're from, but they speak a different language. I think some place from Middle East, maybe. I'm not quite sure, but for a long time they only stayed in the house on the weekends. They bought a house, and I'd walk by that house every day, and there was nobody in it, and then I'd only come on the weekends. So I don't know what they plan to do with it. Maybe they're holding on to it as an investment. As I said before, I've never seen so many houses for lease or rent in my life in Niagara Falls, and that's because people buy them as an investment and try to rent them to pay for them. As a matter of fact, my one of my sons is in a situation like that. A house that he in if it was in other times he would have owned, now he has to rent them.
Yeah, and basically they're saying here Niagara's real estate market is poised to finish the market year off with modest increases, and Remax basically is saying Niagara is expecting a 2% bump in prices, 2 to 3%.
Yeah, even even if he says, even though the price is supposed to go up about 2%, it's still supposed to be a buyer's market, and I don't know. They're overpriced houses. That's all I can say. But this is a problem all over the West now. Real estate is ballooning, but it's ballooned more. The problem is more acute in Canada than anywhere else in the G7.
Well, he's basically saying in terms of percentage, sales, etc. He's saying we saw 25% in Q1, Q2. We had a spotty but moderate summer. Probably did see about 20% sale in sales. I think we're probably going to see 30 to 32% of all sales happening this fall.
Yeah, and he also points out that there's no new housing starts, or very few of them.
Yeah.
And that the stock of homes that we have are ones that are already being built, and those are the ones that are on sale. But new starts haven't really come across. I mean, we got apartments and that kind of thing going up, but as far as new homes, there's not a whole lot of them going up, according to this article. So I don't know. I should try to quote him exactly here, but that's basically what I saw. I don't know if you see that as well.
I didn't. Yeah, it did. Basically, he was saying we've not actually got a huge amount of growth going on. That growth that we have got is still, for example, there's a place actually in central St. Catharines where they're probably still a year away from the first units being available for rent.
Niagara has stock within that sweet spot when you balance the household incomes. They're talking about the 550 to 725 because there's a fair amount available. When you balance household incomes, all roads lead to Niagara. Putting together, they're showing it, and I'm trying to find that quote. The tale of two cities. Greater Valley moving up. Oh boy, Bank Canada. Rate cuts are like catching a sword in the remaining problem is there hasn't been new construction, so that's added to the inventory mix. We're still only dealing with resale. Believe it or not, there's a lot of inventory, but the stuff that sells relatively quickly when the consumer sees value.
The only thing is about that,
not a whole lot of new stock, despite all the initiatives of the province and the federal government to start it. And as we've pointed out time and time again on this show, you cannot just say, here's some money, build one. I want to see it tomorrow. You can't do that.
Yeah. And it's, as you quite rightly said, it sells relatively quickly when the consumer sees value. In other words, what is selling is going to be homes that are in near perfect condition, where people see, hey, I've got a, I don't have to do a lot of work in this particular place. Maybe paint a few walls, change the flooring a little bit, where they don't have to spend a fortune on it.
Yes.
And
so I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that, except that no relief in sight for the average homeowner in Niagara, with our incomes being like a middle good income for a single person in the middle class in Niagara Falls is around $63,000. A family income, a good benchmark family income for Niagara Falls is around $109,000. That's deadly hard for someone in the average bracket. That's a good average bracket too. It's going to be pretty darn tough for them to afford a house.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So moving on. Okay. So moving on. I don't have a. Okay. So we're going to be getting a new 30-story hotel towers have been approved by Niagara Falls Council on Ferry Street. So this is basically to replace what is currently a motel at Ferry and Clark.
Yeah, it's basically it went through City Council the last meeting
last week.
Yeah, it's pretty much been approved. I think there's some minor things they have to take care of, but they're going to build this thing, and it's in the right spot. I mean, you really can't complain about it. It's in the right spot. It's in the tourist section. It's not going to interfere with any residential buildings around there. And no one's complained about it interfering with the businesses in and around there. So it's the right place to put it. My objection to it, if I had any, was the fact that it's just going to make traffic a lot worse, because this has much more of a capacity than the existing hotel. And that means there's going to be a lot more cars. And I don't know. I guess maybe that we just have to live with the fact that during the summertime, there's going to be hour-long types of traffic jams. I mean, the only objection I have, and not much of an objection, because there's a liquor store there that's open longer than the other ones. And if you want to get there during the summer, it's hard. But if you come in the back way, it's not so bad. If you come in from the Stanley way and through the old neighborhood there, that's east of Stanley Avenue.
Which you're fortunate that most tourists don't know that neighborhood, right?
Yeah. And so you can go in the back. They have a ample parking lot back there, but that's the only thing I can think of. I don't know how it will affect you. Normally, the more people you push into the area, the businesses around it benefit from it. But I don't really know how it's going to add to the congestion down there. That's just the way it's going to be. But anyway, but as far as anyone who gets a hotel room there, they likely won't have to use their car thereafter, because they're right close to Clifton Hill. They're within a walk of the falls. They can get on the WeGo bus and do other things as well.
Yeah, and they're also saying that the project they're talking about is they're anticipating a job increase of about 500 people overall.
Yeah, it's actually a bit more than that. And I pointed this out when I was on Paul Lemire's show when we were talking about the council meeting. I said, that's well and good if they are Canadians born and not the temporary worker program.
Actually,
I'm not here talking about the students who take on jobs. That I'm talking about the temporary worker program, which
you're talking about providing their permanent residence. You're fine.
Yeah. I've said this for a couple of years on this show that I see this as an encroachment on our city. I think because people can't get a job and pay their bills in Niagara Falls, it's almost not worth them to take a minimum paid job that most hotels have. So the hotel people will be encouraged to look for temporary foreign workers like the farms do, and they can make a case. Well, we can't pay the going rate. Now, this is very interesting because I heard an economist, I think it was the assistant to the Bank of Canada person. Anyway, I wish I could remember her name. She said that actually rising wages is a problem for Canada. Rising wages is a problem for Canada because our productivity is too low. And if our productivity is low, that means the pie is smaller, but the hand that sticks itself into the pie is bigger. So there has to be a balance. When wages go up, productivity has to go up, or at least the price of whatever they're making or producing goes up. The problem, if that doesn't happen, then there is always an argument to bring in low-paid workers from outside, like they do in the agricultural sector. There's no way the average person is going to, the average Canadian can work in the agricultural system and make a living, but foreign workers can. And I think they're going to start making arguments for that in places like the tourist sector, where you can't live on the you can't make a living with minimum wage, with houses going up as much as they are, and therefore these spots get left unfilled. And when they do that, they're going to make a strong argument to the government: we need temporary workers. And I've seen that. Yeah. I've seen that temptation, or felt I saw that temptation in Niagara Falls for some time now.
Yeah, I get you. Okay, so one thing to point out about this is that there are 540 rooms projected into this, and there are 478 car parking spaces in a multi-story car park.
Yeah, they're always giving them breaks on more or less and less parking. This goes with condos and the apartment buildings as well. There are, and also there are amenity spaces as well. I'll talk about the plan to put the housing development on the old ball hockey court on 4th Avenue, close to the Gale Center there. The city has allowed them to reduce their amenity space from 20 cubic meters down to 14 cubic meters. That means they can make the units smaller. They've also got less green space or less garden space approved by the council, and also less parking space is approved by the council. In more prosperous times, this would never have happened. The council will have insisted on its standards, but because there is this rapid need for places to live, that they will not hold to those standards any longer.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer we must stick to the standards. If you want to create a different market, then we need an R6 kind of, an R6 designation being set up by the province.
Well, the problem is we have our standards, and if you're dropping your amenity space by 6 cubic meters, that's a heck of a lot.
Yes, it's too much.
That means apartments are getting smaller, condos are getting smaller, and you're paying for the same price for them.
Yeah. So
what council doesn't hear is like, these are going to go for X amount of dollars, but now they're going to go for X amount of dollars for a smaller space.
But
the huge housing shortage is kind of forcing the hand of councils all over a province. Get them cooperate with the developer and get it done. And someone's going to say, well, you can concentrate more units if you reduce the amenity space from 20 down to 14 cubic meters. Yeah, Yeah, you can, but you're going to jam in more people into a space, and they're going to get less for their buck. I think the tendency here is, as I remember when I went to Europe back in the 70s, there was a lot of really small places with a lot of people inside them. And that was because the standard of living was much lower there. I remember going to staying in an apartment building in around Euston in London, and and there was 4 kids and 2 adults in a pretty small apartment, and they had to keep going outside their apartment and put coins in the meter so they could keep having power. So I thought, and anywhere I looked throughout Europe, people were living in standards of living much lower than that was in Canada. And I think we're heading there because the standard of living for the average middle class person is declining. And the fact that we're getting smaller houses and less parking spaces and less garden spaces in developments are an indication of that.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Okay. I think that's kind of where we can kind of leave it for today, I guess. Got one more. Oh yeah. Niagara Falls needs a monorail. No way, no how.
We need an elevated monorail that's a mag line that can go 100 miles an hour. Oh,
yeah, like that's gonna happen.
Well, we certainly do need better transportation because what I'm doing right now, and I should mention this too, that I'm trying to drum up donations at the Staples. Staples and Kiwanis have this thing going where Staples will collect donations for us, and then we buy school supplies for kids who can't afford it in town. Yeah. We had a really good year so far this year. We've got $7,500 so far, and we probably will hit 8,000 by the time it ends next week. But while I'm in there, I talk to people, and and people come in. One young lady I was talking to, she says, "Oh, sorry, I'm not here to buy anything or donate anything. I'm here just to spend time because it's another hour before my bus leaves." Because that Staples, of course, is close to that bus collection zone there, right off of Morrison Street there. So she had to wait an hour to get a bus.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. Yep. All right. Okay. So I think we can kind of call it quits at that one.
Yes, and without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace. I think one of the most dangerous things I've heard is that hypersonic missile hit Israel and got right through its missile defense program. It took 11 and a half minutes to get from Yemen all the way to Israel, which is like over 2,000 kilometers, 11 and a half minutes. There's no way the Israeli Defense Forces could stop it. It's not even the best one the Houthis have. And the implication here is if the Houthis got one, the Iranians got thousands or hundreds at least. This is a warning. Like, of course, Israel's going to strike back, and they're going to.
Of course, we know that. We know that.
Yeah, they're going to hit a lot of places, but the Houthis are prepared for that. And they probably hit anything that's anything of importance. So, but the fact that it got through the Iron Dome system makes Israel extremely vulnerable, and they had better stop that goddamn war because they're killing people left, right, and center. And it's a stain on the West. It is allowing this to happen.
All right.